welcome to another exciting edition of the QBRI Talks for Early Career Researchers, a webinar series that shares inspirational success stories in science with the aim of motivating personal and professional development amongst researchers. My name is Advati Naik, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the Qatar Biomedical Research Institute. A couple of housekeeping rules before we begin. The microphone of all attendees has been muted. However, we encourage you to post your questions in the Q&A tab and not the chat tab. If you're using a mobile device, you can find the Q&A tab by clicking on the circle with the 3 dots on your screen. Please also direct these questions to all the panelists to make sure that your questions are visible to us. The webinar will be recorded and a link to it will be shared with you in the next couple of days. So you may all agree with me that since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic about a year ago, the world has also experienced an infodemic, which is an overload of information, misinformation, scientific controversies, and sensational news headlines that the non-scientific community has been left to wade through, understand, and interpret at their own discretion. This has not only highlighted the importance of clearly and correctly communicating science to the masses, but also the social responsibility of scientists to be involved in this vigilance and dissipation of scientific discoveries. A public science figure who has been bridging this gap in communication between the scientists and the masses, not just during the pandemic, but way before, is Hashim Al-Khaili, a science communicator, a filmmaker, and a video producer. Hashim was born in Yemen and obtained his master's degree in molecular biotechnology from Jacobs University Bremen in Germany. He runs his own Facebook page called Science Nature Page, which has over 32 million followers and reaches around 400 million users every week. His videos on Facebook have garnered nearly 16 billion views, covering a range of topics from astronomy, physics, to biology, medicine, nature, and technology. His science communication activities extend to YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Hashim, we are indeed honored to host you today. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. Our
Thank
audience
you for
is,
having me.
thank you. Our audience is very keen to hear your story in building a career in science communication, how you manage to reach millions across the globe, and the advice that you have for researchers interested in a career in science communication. So I will pass on the floor to you now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really, thank you for hosting me, and I hope that everyone here will benefit from this session. So, my journey with science communication began in 2009. So, I was basically doing my bachelor's when I was introduced to Facebook for the first time. Now, before that, for a long time, I used to share science facts and interesting facts about the world in children's magazines in the Middle East. And so it was always exciting to see that the facts that I'm actually sharing are being read by many children out there. And that was really exciting until 2009, 2008, when I was introduced to Facebook for the first time during my bachelor's degree. And that's where I thought, well, Facebook, social media in general, could be a fertile ground for sharing science content. And so I started sharing science content on my Facebook profile. This was with my friends at first, and well, they weren't really interested, most of them. So I started sharing content on Facebook groups. There were groups for biology, for astronomy, for physics. And so when I came across something interesting, I would share it in one of these groups. And those people who were on these groups, they would start joining my Facebook profile because Facebook at that time introduced the subscribe button. And so there were tons of subscribers, they were increasing in number, but I continued doing that. And in 2015, many things changed. So I was doing my master's degree and I finished it. I started my PhD, and I thought, well, do I really want to do a PhD, or do I want to continue the journey that I started many years ago, which is science communication? And I ended up with science communication. Back then, Facebook introduced videos, and they were taking more care of videos, so I started paying more attention to videos. And I converted my Facebook profile, which at that time had 27,000 followers. I converted it into a Facebook page. And the difference is that when you have a Facebook profile, you don't get the insights. And insights are very important. These are the numbers that show you which videos are getting more attention, and how many seconds people are watching each video, or which posts are performing better. And so when you look at the insights, they can help you optimize the strategy of sharing your content. So I converted into a Facebook page. Everything that I created since 2008 was lost. So I had to start from scratch in 2015, and it continued to grow until it is now one of the top 10 platforms or worldwide for science content in general. And this includes on Facebook and also on YouTube. So it's been a long journey, but I am very happy where it has come so far and it has reached. So the Facebook page, although it's actually the main base of operation, I also do I publish science content on other social media platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter as well, and YouTube. But Facebook is the primary place where I actually publish the content. So it's called Science and Nature page, and I consider August 1st to be the day of establishing it, although it started in 2008. Basically, August in 2015 was when I converted the profile into a page. And now it has over 32 million followers. And the main content or topics that I share include science, nature, medicine, and technology. So these are the topics that I focus on publishing on my social media channels. So I am a science communicator, which means that I bridge the gap between scientists and the general public. There are tons of publications that are published every day on scientific journals, and it's really very hard to access these, either because of limitation in accessing them, they are behind a paywall, or because they are very complex and not accessible to the general public. So we need someone to make them easy to understand, to make them digestible, and to communicate them to the general public. Now, because they are research papers, they would go through extensive peer reviewing process, which means several scientists would have been working before publication to review the content and the data, so that at the end you get a paper which can be reliable. So you would expect the original source, which is the research paper, to have a degree of integrity and credibility, because you are communicating this to the masses. So if you're choosing the wrong paper, either from a low quality journal, then you're basically spreading misinformation. So I make sure that the original or primary sources of information are actually accurate, reliable, and they have been extensively peer reviewed. And so as a science communicator, I work as a bridge between the scientist and the general public, who I would expect to be open-minded towards new ideas, towards learning new concepts, and excited to learn these things. So there are sometimes new discoveries in science that can be very hard to believe, but if you are open-minded, you of course question things, but you leave space for believing, yeah, and so trusting the scientific method, and you would expect the audience to be open-minded and excited to learn. So why am I doing this? I mean, I could have continued my PhD, could have just carried out research work, or I could do a job, something else. But I'm doing this for a number of reasons. First of all, it's because there is a widespread of misinformation on social media, and that is a problem. So the best way to tackle misinformation is to spread authentic, reliable information. That's how you can counter the spread of misinformation on social media. Sometimes you could actually say, oh, this is wrong, but instead you could amplify the correct information, and that's what I'm doing. The second reason is because, well, social media is accessible now. If you look into history, you will see that when cell phones came out for the first time, they were very limited to a select group of people, rich, those who really have access to money and can buy cell phones. And these cell phones were really primitive. They didn't have the functions that modern phones have. But now there are tons of companies making these phones. They are accessible. They have reached every single continent. It's incredible. And so, because of this wide reach of the internet, the cell phone, people can get their information from different sources. So, why don't we use this incredible medium to deliver information worldwide, globally, and make sure that it is authentic? And the third reason why I do this is because I love it. It's my hobby. I always loved reading about science, technology, nature, astronomy. And when I am a science communicator, I do not only get to limit myself to a certain knowledge in a certain single field, but I actually get to learn new things about different fields every single day. I wake up in the morning and I do my reading, um, and I'm exposed to a number of topics in different fields, and this is really fun to learn. And the fourth reason is, well, because we're talking about science and technology, and these fields influence our lives directly or indirectly. For example, if you look into medicine, which is the product of science and technology, there are tons of people who have illnesses that they would like to see what are the modern treatments are there for. What modern treatments are there for these illnesses? So when science and technology influences our lives, we ought to learn about it. So there are a number of ways by which one can communicate science on social media. The first one is articles. Now, unfortunately, articles can be really, really long, and many people do not have time to read everything that is in that article. I mean, sometimes you might sit down and you read an entire article that is between 500 to over 1,000 words if it's full analysis. Sometimes some articles can be really cool because they contain images. As you know, people are visual oriented mostly, and that's why we switch to the second one, which is infographics. And infographics is really a very cool medium to publish content because it can be, you can publish infographics that are colorful. They have really cool designs. When they show up on someone's news feed, they stop by to check a piece of information. And the third one, which is videos. And videos are very, very important, as that will come later why video should be the focus of communication in the current age. Now, as I said, infographics are really excellent because they can deliver just a point that you want to say in a summarized way. Instead of reading a full paper, you can actually summarize that paper or its abstract into a few sentences. And along with these sentences, you attach a thought-provoking or engaging picture, which is colorful. And when people see these on their news feed, they immediately move on to read it before they read it before they actually move on. And these are different types of infographics that I create, either regular daily or weekly science facts, or this week in science. I mean, every Sunday throughout my reading, I come across a number of interesting science news, and I put them in a single infographic, which can be between 8 to 10 stories, and it highlights the latest breakthroughs in science. So if someone missed what happened in science for that week, they can just visit my profile, yeah, on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram, and they can see what happened or the top interesting news about the world of science or from the world of science. During the coronavirus pandemic, there was a widespread of misinformation, and that was a problem. So I thought, why don't I do my rule? And I started publishing uh, science facts about the coronavirus. That was actually done daily. I also started publishing coronavirus news. And the reason why we needed this was first, it was important to know what's happening with the virus. Is it mutating or is it still intact? How far the pandemic has progressed, how far the vaccine development has progressed, and finally, what are the new measures? As you know, the CDC in the US, for example, always comes up with new measures based on new information they learned about the virus. If you remember, first they recommended one mask, and then now they say two masks are more protective. So the measures against the virus also change depending on new information that are revealed about the virus itself. And so I needed to keep people updated about these. So I was publishing daily infographics, and it was incredible. The engagement for coronavirus updates and the number of returning visitors to the channels was amazing because they all wanted to learn about the virus, about how they protect themselves, and also when are they going to get out of their homes. And that wasn't just really infographics, it was also video content. I published a lot of video content about coronavirus, just like I publish about other topics. And these videos were getting really a lot of engagement. And they were meant to prevent or actually counter the spread of misinformation. And it isn't really just videos, but also Q&A sessions with experts and scientists. So during the coronavirus pandemic, I used to host scientists. So I look into my posts on social media and I see what are the most frequently asked questions. And I make a list of these questions and then I search for experts who could answer these questions and I host them. We have an interview for an hour or 1 hour and a half where we discuss all these questions and then I publish these interviews after editing them. And yeah, these interviews were really getting a lot of engagement. So even before the coronavirus pandemic, I used to do live videos with scientists. It was it was very nice to actually host scientists from different fields who would answer people's questions directly on the spot. It was very challenging also, I have to say, because you would send emails to a lot of scientists and sometimes the response rate cannot be as you might expect or as you might hope. Uh, the number of views overall on my social media channels is over 17 billion views on all videos. These are short, long videos, captioned, which means screen on text, and also narrated videos. And honestly, I never expected it to be this much, yeah, or to get this far. But throughout this entire journey, I've just been doing what I love. And that's very important. When you're doing what you love, everything else is the byproduct of that. The views, the engagement, yeah, or the name you build for yourself, these are the byproducts. They're not really the target or the main goal. So, and this, by the way, I guess applies to anything, not just science communication. It's important that you focus on doing what you love doing. So these videos are produced for a reason. First of all, to educate people, and second, because videos are the medium that can bring change. Now, there is a report that by next year, 2022, 80% of the traffic on the internet is going to come from videos. So instead of reading a full article, sometimes people are busy in an office. Well, now we have a pandemic, so rarely people go to offices, but they watch a video, very short, straight to the point, gives them the idea, the abstract idea. And those who want to learn more, there are articles and links. They can delve deeper into the knowledge. I think the main goal of science communication is not really to feed people information, but to teach them the process of finding information and also the process of questioning things. Because there are thousands of discoveries that are being published every single day. And so what you really need here is to teach people the process, because you can't really cover all these thousands of discoveries. You teach them the process of how to get the abstract knowledge, how to question things, and then they can apply the process to every single discovery. I mean, what I'm highlighting in my own post on social media is just a tiny fraction. It's a drop of an ocean of knowledge that is being published every single day. Now, what are the tools that I use for science communication or for creating these videos? There are a number of tools. I've got Adobe Premiere Pro. There is a free version that people can actually use, which is DaVinci Resolve. It's a very cool software for video editing. And recently I got into 3D animations, and I use After Effects for that. Now learning Cinema 4D, but there are also other tools like 3ds Max and Blender. When you become a science communicator, you need to, and you really want to deliver top quality content, you have to make sure that the presentation is good. And so these tools can really help. So I really learned them by myself by watching tutorials on YouTube. There is an incredible amount of knowledge on how to use these tools on YouTube. And so YouTube can be actually one of the first sources for you to start learning on how to use these tools so that you can use them in anything, not really just science communication. One thing that is very important is when you become a science communicator, whether you're actually publishing pictures or videos, you have to know something, which is copyright, right? As you know, creating these videos and images takes a lot of time. So there is a chance that at some point you might use a copyrighted material, and that's a problem. So you need to make yourself aware of the copyrights that you can use, or the content that you can use, and the content that you cannot use. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about copyright here, because I think this is very important to distinguish. There is the public domain. Public domain means that a work, which is a video or an image, has been published by a government agency which was paid by taxes from the people. For example, NASA. When NASA publishes a video, you can take that video and republish it. You can repurpose it. Or when NASA publishes, they have, for example, live broadcast. You can also stream it again on your channel. So it's public domain. Another form of public domain is something that has expired and has no copyrights anymore because it's very old. So sometimes there are pictures that were drawn, let's say, by Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, Leonardo da Vinci was drawing anatomy pictures, beautiful pictures. So they are under public domain and you can use them because the author has died many years ago. So public domain can be used. I mean, now I'm talking about where do the images and videos come for this content, because there are too many. You can't really make everything by yourself, so you need to get them from different places. The second one is Creative Commons. So some authors, whether they created a video or shot a video, or they created an image and you want to use it, they might publish it under Creative Commons, which means they allow you to use it without asking permission from them. And once you use it, you just need to give them credit in the form that they want. They might ask for a link to be added in the post. They might ask for their name to be included in the credit. So this is Creative Commons, and a lot of shots that I take that are used in my videos, they come from Creative Commons. The next thing is fair use, which is really important. Now, when I talk about Creative Commons and fair use, they come hand in hand. They are basically together. Let's say you are publishing a video, or I am publishing a video on my Facebook page about science, and I found a very interesting 5 seconds from a movie. Now, movies are copyright protected, but I'm using the video for educational purposes. I'm not using it for a commercial. So under fair use, you are allowed to use up to like 4 to 5 seconds shot of that movie. And so fair use allows creators to create new type of content from an existing one, and this really helps. Otherwise, how are you going to create this many videos all at once? It's if you are going to shoot everything by yourself, you're going to create everything from scratch, it's going to take a lot of time. And the last part is the licensed content, which is content that I pay for. There is music, footage, and images, and so I license them. Previously, when I started science communication, licensed content was very expensive. If you want to buy a single shot from Getty Images, for example, it might cost between 200 to 500 US dollars. That's very expensive, right? I mean, speaking of a video that is 3 minutes and you want multiple shots, and a single shot costs up to 500 or even more sometimes, depending on what you are actually searching for. But luckily now, things have changed. Licensed content has become really cheap, and there are a number of websites here. This is a list of websites that I use. You might have seen in some of my videos some really beautiful animations that I got from different websites. I mean, I don't really create all the animations by myself because that would be a tedious, long, process, very time consuming, also effort wise, also render time. It's a burden to the computer as well if you are going to create everything from scratch. So these websites already have existing stuff. They have videos, they have music, and they also have images. And you can repurpose them, you can use them whatever you want. And they are really cheap because you pay per year. So a single subscription on one of these websites would cost around $250 to $300 per year. And you can have unlimited downloads. You can download animations, videos. Yeah, when you search for coronavirus, for example, there will be a number of animations for the coronavirus, and you can use them in your videos, and you can download them whenever you want, use them for as much time. Yeah, and honestly, if it wasn't for these websites, creating content on the internet generally would become difficult. But websites like these make it possible to create content and not just exclusive to National Geographic, History Channel. I mean, if you remember, when we used to watch documentaries that are really full length from History Channel and Discovery Channel, yeah, they were really exclusive. Only big companies would be able to produce this quality of stuff. But now, with content that you can license from websites like this, it has become easy and more accessible, and video production is now much faster as well. So why some videos are really doing well? What makes a successful video? The first thing that makes a video successful is choosing top quality content. And you ask yourself before publishing that, is this something that I would share or I would care about? For example, a new cancer treatment. There are a lot of people who know some loved ones who have cancer, and they would be interested in learning about the latest treatments in cancer, or those who are interested in astronomy. So you have to take care of the content quality and make sure to choose something that that is really good. And of course, this can be your choice as well. I read every day, and I come across a lot of scientific news. I can't really cover everything, but I choose the ones that I like and the ones that I also think my audience will like. And how do I know what my audience likes? As I said, social media platforms have their own tools for analytics, and they provide you insights on which videos are doing well, which videos are not doing well, and you can use this for your own benefit and learn how to optimize the content quality. The second thing is the language simplicity. As you know, the primary sources of information are complex, sometimes really difficult to understand the title of a research paper. Even for scientists, they have to analyze it sometimes. So we have to convert all these complexities into simple words that are digestible, that everyone can understand, regardless of their age, regardless of their educational background. So we have to use simple language. The third one is the visual presentation. As I said, many of these videos have animations, and these animations are either created by me or licensed from different websites, or taken sometimes under Creative Commons and fair use from other authors or creators. And so you really have to take care of the visual presentation. As they say, the first 3 seconds of a video are very important because they determine if a person is going to watch or not. Yeah. So you have to take care of the visual presentation by putting the most interesting footage in the very few seconds. That's part of it. The second part of it is storytelling, which means if you remember from the and I actually applied this technique when I started science communication. It was the visual storytelling. If you remember from the silent era movies, you would watch a movie, there was no sound, it's just music and text. Really, music, text, and some actors moving around. But you would be able to understand what they're saying and you would be able to follow the story. Even sometimes if there is no text, there is no dialogue, because it's the chronological order of the sequence that tells you what the story is. And when I was using this technique early on, when I started, sometimes over 1 million followers would join in a single week because the video would go really viral and it reaches millions, that at least 1 million of them joined in a single week. And I really couldn't believe it. The last part is the length. There are two lengths actually, well, three to be precise. There is the short videos, the medium, yeah, in length, and also long videos. Long videos are okay. Social media platforms prefer long videos now because they can put more ads on them. But mentally, humans have a limited capacity for how much they can watch when you give them a lot of information at once. If you look on YouTube, there are tons of documentaries that are being published, sometimes History Channel, National Geographic, or Science Channel. There are documentaries that are being uploaded by other people, but they really don't get a lot of views because it's a small, or it's a simple idea that has been stretched over 45 minutes. That's very long. When in reality, you can just in 10 minutes deliver everything. If you remove all the mumbo jumbo from the 45 minutes, all that information can be told in 5 to 10 minutes, even and less actually. So long videos, as much as they're favored by the algorithms, they're not always the greatest. Medium videos are great, up to 10 minutes. That's very good. But short videos, personally, I prefer short videos because they are straight to the point, 1 to 3 minutes. Yeah, you can tell everything you need to say, and they work. They work. And people love to just get the basic abstract idea. And if they want to learn everything later on, there are links that they can follow and they will get more information. Now, the final thing, which is not mentioned here, to make a video successful is to combine all of these. When you take care of all of these at once, take care of the content quality, language simplicity, visual presentation, and length, and you really do them well, then This is called shareability, which means the video is shareable because it has achieved all these basic needs and or criteria. And yeah, you have a very successful video, which is, I mean, you can sometimes, by the way, predict if a video will do well or not by looking into the insights, what people liked, what they didn't like, and also by optimizing it and following these techniques. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for your attention. That was a brief overview on my journey with science communication, and I hope you all benefited from this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hashim, for sharing that with us. A quick reminder to the audience to please post your questions in the Q&A tab, and we will take these very shortly. So Hashim, I'd like to begin with a couple of questions before we start the Q&A. So you have a background in science, and then you decided to switch to a more non-traditional career in science communication. And you mentioned that you were self-taught with a lot of these tools that are required for science communication. Do you think educational institutions really need to tailor their degrees that gives you, you know, this sort of flexibility to allow new graduates to build other skills like, you know, how to use these programs and technologies?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the current educational system is rigid. It's not flexible. Students are limited to certain subjects and they have to follow a certain curriculum or course. And that doesn't really help in the long run, because if you look, many students end up choosing other careers later on after they have spent many years studying up to their master's or bachelor's or even PhD. Yeah. If I did not expose myself to graphics design, and I loved it, although I didn't really study it at the university, I would have been doing the PhD because I didn't really get an exposure to something else that I might have loved. So it's important for the curriculum in general, to be more flexible, so students will have the opportunity to learn more about what are the options out there, and then they can choose whether they make a complete switch in their career or they combine two things at once, as I did, which is combining my background in science and also my hobbies in graphics design and interest in technology and social media.
Yes, absolutely. Next, my question is, you know, sometimes a career is part passion and part also trying to make a living. So there's definitely a lot of passion in our young researchers, and now with social media playing such an important role, we have a lot of researchers tending to do this as an interest or a hobby outside of their research jobs. And I mean, the sort of content that you create obviously takes a lot of time, and it cannot be done as a side interest or hobby. So could you elaborate how freelancing in science communication can also be a viable option to make a living, and how does one go about doing this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The thing is, you can actually make a living by creating something valuable. General, all right. Essentially, everyone who's making a living, they're basically creating something valuable, and doing that on the internet through science communication or creating content also works. Now, there are different ways of doing this. One is monetization. So, you say you're publishing your content on YouTube or Facebook or Snapchat. You have monetization tools which allow you to integrate ads into the videos, and the revenues from these ads are shared between. That's one. I mean, if you take care of the content quality and you ensure that there are more views, more engagement, then the revenues will be higher, of course. Then there is the sponsorships, which means you are approached, or you yourself approach other companies that share the same mission, and they advertise on your videos. Say, hey, this video is sponsored by this or that, yeah, and they pay for it. Then there is another one which is merchandise. Some people create cool shirts or cool mugs or other stuff with their own logos or trademarks, yeah, and their content creator, content enthusiast, or those who digest their content or consume their content, they want to support these creators, so they buy these. And there have been many successful stories actually through social media. And this works, by the way, for anything. It's not really about science communication. It works for sometimes people who want to engage in discussions about politics or economy or art or other interests. The formula is there. It's universal. You just need to get started.
Thank you, Hashim. Can we move on to take a couple of questions from the audience? If we can have the Q&A slides, please. Okay, so a first question from the audience is, what style of communication is likely to work well? Instructional, information, formal, informal, humorous?
Yeah, I think a mix of many, depending on your audience. And also, it depends on what you have made your audience used to. If you have been using formal, suddenly switch to informal, that would be like you're alienating yourself from your audience, right? If you have been using formal or more serious structure, and then you suddenly switch into humorous, that can be a little bit of a tough transition for your audience. So it really depends on what you started from the beginning. But generally, most of them work, although I have to say humorous does work more because you're combining laughter, which makes us psychologically, we feel good as we're learning at the same time. So I would say humorous, which I am hopefully going to explore.
Very interesting. Thank you, Hashim. What else do we have? So we hear that you're currently expanding in terms of short film directing and producing, and you've earned several international awards. Can you tell us more about that, please?
Yeah, so I directed my first short film. I wrote it and directed. It's called Simulation, and it has won multiple awards in international film festivals. I wanted to make the second one. Unfortunately, COVID came, so it's difficult to gather people in a small space when there is a pandemic. So I'm now expanding into something else as well. I haven't left filmmaking. I'm just waiting for the right opportunity when everything opens again and people can gather, because you need crew for making films. But I'm writing Simulation as a book. It's a science fiction novel, and I'm almost finishing with the writing of the novel. So writing stories, filmmaking, there are new tools that I'm exploring to communicate science. Carl Sagan, who is one of my role models and top science communicators, wrote a sci-fi book, a novel called Contact. Yeah, and that was turned into a movie, which was really successful. And so he saw that as an opportunity, so storytelling and filmmaking as an opportunity to expand people's enthusiasm about science in general. So that's what I'm exploring as well.
We look forward to seeing some of this new content in the near future from you, Hashim. Okay, can we switch to the next question? So how do you manage the voiceover of your videos, and how do you verify the type of copyrights of the material that you're going to use, whether it's public, licensed, or fair use?
Yeah. Um, the voiceover, I mean, if you have noticed, I have made a number of videos with voiceovers. Sometimes because of the overwhelming amount of work, you go and get another narrator to narrate the video for the voice. Yeah. Sometimes I do that myself. It really depends on the amount of work. The thing is, videos with voiceover generally take much longer. They take much longer than videos that are just captioned or screen on text. I mean, right now, how many people are working? It's me, and there are two other people, so we're basically three. I mean, when the page reached to a certain number of audience, I decided to expand the team, and now we're 3 at the current stage. So around 3 videos are made every single day, but they're not with voiceover, because with voiceover you would not really be able to make that unless you have a very, very large team, and that is time consuming, and it's also very costly. As for verifying the type of copyright, every artist generally publishes what is the license of their work is. Some of them state clearly that, hey, I'm publishing this under Creative Commons, feel free to use it, but credit me. Yeah. Sometimes, by default, this is a government agency, it means it's a public domain. So you can publish it and take it right away. Yeah. And still give them credit. And also, when you know that it is, how do you know it's also fair use, is because you're using it for educational purpose. So if let's say a dentist, okay, a dentist was doing some procedure, took a video, published it on YouTube, but this was published under strict license, you can't use it, or let's say you can actually, let's say you can, under Creative Commons. So a company which creates toothpaste cannot take that video for a commercial, right? That would be a violation of the copyright license, which is Creative Commons. Creative Commons means for educational purpose. So a fair use would indicate that you're using it for educational purposes, and also you're not publishing the whole video. For example, the dentist video is 1 minute long. You're not taking the whole minute, because you're basically taking the whole video. You're taking a short segment, so that by the end, your video combined with other shots and other footage is like a new type of content, right? It's not exactly the same. It's transformed into something new, and that's what constitutes fair use.
Thank you for very clearly explaining that, Hashim. Our next question is, how can we get Creative Commons license or fair use copyright for my own work, example, science cartoons or science illustrations?
Well, there is a number of websites which publish vectors. I mean, science cartoons and science illustrations. And there are a number of websites. I have a list, actually, of these websites where you can find Creative Commons and public domain. And I can share the list with the organizers, and they can send it to everybody who participated in this event. But yeah, I do have a list which can be very helpful. And they offer really also free, for example, Pixabay, or Pixabay, one of the platforms where you can find free images that you can use, and they're also public domain actually. But we'll send the list to the organizers, and then they can forward them to everyone who would like to take a look.
Sure, we can do that for you, Hashim. But I think also maybe the particular person who asked meant if they produce some sort of a cartoon or an illustration, how do they put a copyright on it or deposit it in one of these repositories?
So like he wants or she wants to deposit their own work as Creative Commons. Well,
Correct.
as I said, these are platforms where you can create an account and put your work under Creative Commons. Yeah. Also, let's say you're creating also science cartoons as a video. When you upload a video on YouTube, there is a selection there, a box where you can choose Creative Commons, and it will display when someone watches the video that this is under Creative Commons. So either sometimes built-in tools inside the platform, or you can add it clearly in the description that this is under Creative Commons, or you can use one of the websites, create an account, put your work there, and it will be under Creative Commons. Yeah. By the way, Flickr, if you are using flickr.com, there you can upload your content and put them under Creative Commons license when you are uploading them. And then when someone is searching on Google Images, there is a filter on Google Images which can filter by Creative Commons or public domain. So when they filter by Creative Commons, your account on Flickr, the content there will be displayed by Google, yeah, when they're searching for that certain content. So that's one of the most effective ways.
Great, thank you for that advice. What do we have next? Given that you're currently in Germany, do you see a supportive environment for such activities in your region? Would you consider training a younger generation?
Um, sure. I mean, I've been thinking about creating an online course that is free to attend for everybody to learn how things are done. Yeah, deliver all my experience in science communication. But I'm not sure whoever asked the question whether they are implying they live in Germany or in our region, as in the Middle East. Yeah, like what are they implying, that they live in Germany or in the Middle East?
I'm not sure where the origin of the person is from, but I think maybe they probably imply that you might have a more supportive environment in terms of accessibility to
Um,
tools in Germany rather than here.
honestly, everybody has access. If you have an internet connection that's good, everyone has an access to these tools. I mean, it's not like I'm receiving a grant from the German government telling me, hey, continue doing what you're doing and that's it. No, I can do it from anywhere, even if I'm like in another country. As long as there is a stable internet connection, which is fast, all the tools are really there. You don't even need to get support from a certain, yeah, place.
Absolutely. Okay, what do we have next? Do you have to balance between the importance of scientific discoveries and what the audience wants?
Definitely. I mean, sometimes some videos, even though I think that these are really important scientific discoveries, and the audience might not be interested in watching them, that might break the rules that I just said in my presentation. But I really publish them, despite sometimes that they get low engagement. But then eventually they really get a lot of attraction. For example, the Higgs bosons, yeah, physics. When they were talked about a lot first, I was really enthusiastic about it, and I was publishing a lot of content. There wasn't a lot of interest in the beginning, many years ago, until more and more discoveries were made, more knowledge was generated in this, and it became a hot topic. And although the scientific discovery is important, the engagement was low. Eventually, people realized that it is important, and it's been talked about for a very long time. But now it's scientifically proven, and it's as essential. Like also that one of the gravitational waves, when the two black holes were colliding, and then they created a gravitational waves, and they were proven to basically support Einstein's theory of relativity. So that, a lot of exciting discoveries that people need to know, even though if they don't want, they essentially become important later on.
Great. Okay, next we have, has anyone reached out to you for collaboration in science communication, and are you interested in a collaboration?
Yes, I'm always interested if the collaboration is good and meaningful and it will deliver something exciting and cool. Um, and there has been a lot of people who reach, sometimes universities, they reach out. Sometimes scientists themselves, they send me emails and they say, hey, we have a scientific discovery that we're going to publish soon. The paper is not out yet, but we're going to give you early access so that you can tell us if you would like to create a video. So by the time the paper is published, the video is also published on the same day. So first, uh, basically to publish it, yeah. And so when I'm making the video, I am exchanging emails with these scientists until the final script of the video is fully approved by them and that it matches what they really want to say. No, you don't want oversimplification that the ideas are lost or so much complexity that the ideas are hard to understand. That's why communication with scientists through emails and collaboration has been done a lot, and it has proven to be really helpful.
Okay, I follow you on LinkedIn and noticed that your videos are about 3.5 minutes on average. How do you decide for the suitable length of a video?
Well, it really depends on the topic generally. Yeah. But also sometimes it's affected by the platform itself. Like primarily, most of these are produced for Facebook and then they are repurposed for other platforms. Yeah. Facebook's rule is that if you want to put monetization, it is preferred that the video is minimum 3 minutes long. Yeah. Because if it is 3 minutes, they can show it to more people and they can put ads on it, right? And then you repurpose the videos to other. So although it's 3 minutes, sometimes some topics require shorter time. So I make sure that the videos are a bit shorter, but it really depends on the topic as well.
Okay. How can we use our knowledge in engineering to spread knowledge like you have?
Uh, there are a lot of innovations in engineering, actually, since it is applied. It's an applied field where we can see things working and tools functioning. That makes it even more engaging because people will see the tangible product. Yeah, there are so many concepts in engineering. There is this website, Interesting Engineering, and they have been doing really a good job at it. So it's really about illustrating how these things work, what are they used for, and how did they come to be? What fields of science or what fields have collaborated together to create this piece. I mean, engineering is one of the most important fields, by the way, because if you look, the revolution in medicine and science, they are all the product of engineering. The tools that were created for us through engineers, they are the ones that help us see the universe, the satellites, yeah, the machines, the MRI machine, engineering, right? Tools that help treatment. So a lot of exciting concepts. You just need to show them in a very engaging way, and there is a lot of potential in there.
Great, thank you. Did you encounter any copyright issues before? And if yes, how did you manage it?
Yeah, when I started, I was still really getting used to the copyrights. I was still learning. So while you are in the learning phase, you have some mistakes. Um, there were some stuff that may have been taken down, but I reached out to the original author to explain the situation, and then they would understand, and then they would revoke their decision, and the video is brought back. So sometimes you can reach out to the author, say, hey, if you have published the video, then it's likely that the author would report it, yeah, if you did not follow the guidelines that I just mentioned in my presentation. Then you can reach out to the author and resolve this between you, and then the author will inform the platform that it's okay, I give the permission, you may bring the video back. However, the best practice now is to reach out early to the author before you make the video. Say, hey, I saw a piece that you made and I'd love to use it in one of my creations, and you will receive the credit. Sometimes some authors might be like, you know what, it really took a lot of work to create this, perhaps you can give me some compensation. Yeah, so you give them a compensation for their work, and they accept, and they give you a signed license agreement. So yeah, communication. Communication is the key to deal with copyright problems. Also, there have been a few times where my work has been actually infringed. So although I publish most of my work for people, if you notice, although it's in English, many people can translate the content into other languages without me saying, oh no, don't, because it's knowledge. And the whole purpose of doing this is to spread it. And that's why I give people a chance to improve on it and also to translate it to into their own languages.
I think this ties in very well with the next question on do you think that creating such videos in other languages like Arabic for this region would be useful with the lack of such information in this area in our region?
I think it would be very useful, to be honest. I started it. I didn't see. I mean, useful, yes. Engaging, that's a tough thing. Yeah. I mean, it's useful because people will benefit from it. But how many people are going to watch? That's the issue. So when I created the Arabic version, of my page and I started translating content, I really hired another team for that. Yeah. And I noticed that the engagement wasn't as promising as I thought, so I suspended that project. It is useful, but it's really, you're going to suffer a little bit with the engagement. So, yeah, some of these concepts are new. So there is a culture and there is a tradition, and you're challenging them sometimes with some scientific ideas. So the acceptance can be, um, well, not most promising.
Thank you, Hashim. So in the interest of time, I think I'd like to conclude today's session. And I'd like to conclude by really thanking you, Dr. Hashim, for sharing this, sharing your time and your journey and all those really useful tips with us today. We really appreciate it. I'm sure the audience has gained plenty of both inspiration and insight into the world of science communication. So thank you for all of that input.
Thank you so much, and thank you for hosting me, and also to the audience for attending and for being patient.
Yes, I'd also like to thank the audience for joining in today and for such active participation in the Q&A as well. If you've missed any of our previous webinars, you may find these posted on our HBKU YouTube channel as well. And if there are topics that you would like us to cover in future webinars, please feel free to send us an email as well. Lastly, I'd like to thank the wonderful technical team running the show behind the scenes, Dr. Salam, a fellow postdoc, and Mr. Omar and Ms. Reem from the QBRI Communications Office. So stay tuned in for more inspiring stories in our next webinar. Have a great afternoon, stay safe, stay well, and stay inspired. Thank you.